President of Legalize Maine. This Monday, we committed an act of history. We submitted a citizens' initiative titled An Act to Legalize Marijuana to the Maine Secretary of State's office. This is historic, because we are the first group in the nation without ties to a DC-based or a national organization that is going to be legalizing marijuana in Maine. We're here today to talk about our plan and to really talk about the points of why marijuana needs to be legalized in Maine. We are doing this because Maine is in desperate need of jobs. We are doing this because Mainers want marijuana to be legalized. We're going to ensure that small farmers are protected and that the money from marijuana, both the investment and the labor, stays here within our state and within our communities. We're here to say that we would like the world to know that small farmers can achieve great things and that small farmers can write legislation. We will be funded by local groups. We already have support from Northern Roots Grow Supply from Greenwood, Maine Hydroponic Supply from Jefferson, the Homegrown Connection in Farmington, and Narrow Gauge Cannabis Supply in Farmington. We'd welcome other small, green-minded businesses to also come and support our Citizens Initiative. With this focus on small farmers, we will ensure that the economic benefits from this initiative will be spread across the state, from Kittery to Madawaska. We have requirements that were in our initiative that all board members of any corporation that applies must be citizens of the state of Maine. We will be limiting the size of cultivation grows to prevent big tobacco and big alcohol from coming in and trying to take over our homegrown industry. We believe that the right to grow your own marijuana for medicine or for pleasure is sacrosanct. And therefore, we are saying that anyone who is 21 years of age or older may grow 6 flowering plants, 12 vegetative plants, and have any number of seedlings, so they can ensure that we have a strain variety, to ensure that they can have a consistent supply, and to ensure that if people wish to support themselves and not purchase their medicine or the recreational marijuana, that they can do that. We have set a sales tax. We have set a sales tax at 10%. And I want to be clear that this sales tax is going to be going into the general fund. This will not be earmarked for special programs, and this will not be a pork barrel for special interests. The only exception to that is that we will be ensuring that part of that sales tax money goes to the Maine Criminal Justice Academy, where it will be used to train law enforcement on retail marijuana laws and regulations. This ensures that our law enforcement officers are going to be trained in the new laws, and this will not put a financial burden on our local county or state law enforcement budgets. Retail marijuana will be regulated by the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry. Marijuana is a living plant, and it should be regulated by the agency that regulates other commercial and retail plants here in Maine. The Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry have the best state employees to understand marijuana farmers as they deal with people in the farming industry every day. We will work to have a new division under the Department of Agriculture, Conservation, and Forestry that will be the Retail Marijuana Division, and it will be funded through fees that are charged to marijuana establishment license holders. This is a historic moment, not just for Maine, but for the nation. We are the first people to put national interests, we're the first to put local people before national interests and focus on stimulating our local economy. Legalize Maine is the first group in the nation to put a marijuana legalization measure forward without any ties to any DC-based groups or Wall Street financing. There is no need for a second initiative. We recognize the hard work that the Marijuana Policy Project has done over the past few years in this state with bringing this issue forward to the Maine people with their hard work in York, South Portland, Portland, and Lewiston. And we wish to thank them for that. We wish that they will come around and support the Citizens Initiative to legalize marijuana in the state of Maine. Thank you, and I'll take any questions.
To your last point, have you had discussions with them about dropping their own petition efforts?
We've been speaking with them. We attempted to work together. Unfortunately, there were irreconcilable differences between both our visions and from what they were putting forward. We do not believe that this local marijuana industry should be a giveaway to big liquor, big tobacco, or the pharmaceutical industry. And unfortunately, we were not able to come to terms.
Are they being pushed by outside groups, do you believe? Or do you simply have a different idea of what this ought to be?
We have a very different idea about what our vision is for marijuana in the state of Maine. And they are based out of DC. We believe that as local Mainers, that we understand our state and the issues here better than a DC-based group.
But there'd be nothing, I mean, since you can't prevent interstate commerce, if your referendum passes, there's nothing to prevent outside companies of whatever size of bringing marijuana in to sell in Maine, right?
Marijuana is still illegal on the federal level, and so until the federal government changes their mind, interstate commerce will still be illegal. I'm glad you brought that up, because this hits on a very important point of why we must legalize marijuana here in the state, because we need to get ahead of the curve. We need to get ahead of this issue. We need to build up our infrastructure here in the state of Maine to ensure that when the federal government changes their mind to make marijuana legal, that we will be able to compete with the rest of the nation, and that Maine will become the weed basket of New England and hopefully the whole East Coast.
Paul, do you worry that you'll get competing marijuana measures on the ballot, and then the vote will get split, and you won't have a majority, you won't be able to get there?
Well, that is our desire, to have Marijuana Policy Project support the Citizens Initiative to legalize marijuana, and we think that there is no need for a second initiative.
But how worried are you? I mean, if there are two, it splits the vote and you lose.
We will succeed.
And you're 100% confident that Maine people are ready to do this?
I am.
Why?
I've been traveling around this state for 5 years, sometimes to the detriment of my health and some of my personal relationships. But from talking to people all across this state, even if people do not personally support the recreational use of marijuana, they want to be able to put the question before the voters and put this issue to bed. From people I've spoken to, they are interested in legalizing marijuana even if they don't agree with it, because they see the benefits for the local economy and they see the benefits from tax revenue.
Paul, what's your response to folks that say, hey, these are just the medical marijuana guys and they're just trying to protect their monopoly?
Well, I do not believe there is a monopoly here in this state because we have such a decentralized medical marijuana system. We are the ones who know the marijuana industry the best. We are the farmers, and we understand how best to protect the medical marijuana program. One of the biggest concerns I've heard from the medical marijuana community is that any sort of recreational marijuana program will harm the medical marijuana program. And I want to put those issues to rest right now to say that we are here to ensure that medical marijuana patients will have consistent and safe access to their medicine when our initiative passes.
You say not harm access to patients, but are you concerned also that there would be an erosion of the profits from the medical marijuana side for the folks that are in that business?
We think that anyone who wishes to transition from the medical marijuana program over to the recreational marijuana program should be able to have that opportunity if they're able to meet the state regulations. And that is one reason why we have developed this initiative like that, is that so the small marijuana farmer will have a chance, if they wish to transition over to recreational marijuana production, that they will be able to do that.
What's next?
Well, we are going to continue to be raising money. We're going to be looking to hire a coordinator to gather these signatures. We are going to be continuing to go around the state and talking with people in town halls, within their communities, with city councilors, with people, anyone who's interested in this issue. And we want to answer any of their questions and make clear to them how we believe this is in the best interest of the state of Maine.
I guess why is it in the best interest to have a mind-altering drug? And I realize you may dispute the use of that term.
No, it's a mind-altering drug.
But why is it in the best interest of the state to have a mind-altering drug more readily available than it is now?
If the people of Maine want it, the citizens of Maine want it. I've seen time and again people say, why isn't this just legal? They have a variety of reasons why they think it should be legal, but they still believe it should be legal. And that is why we came forward and put this initiative forward. If we're going to talk about why people are getting high, we need to talk about that as a family and as a community. How many laws will it take to prevent people from breaking the law?
And under your proposal, I realize you said 30 pages, and of course if it passes it can still get altered by the legislature.
Correct.
But under your proposal, how would this work? Would any store be able to get a license and sell marijuana just as they do cigarettes or beer? Or would there be specific sellers? How would that all work?
We have 5 specific classes of licenses. We have a retail marijuana store license, a retail marijuana cultivation facility license, a retail marijuana products manufacturing license, retail marijuana testing facility license, and retail marijuana social clubs. Does that answer your question?
I guess so, yeah. So all of them would have to pay taxes?
They would all be taxed, they would all be regulated, and they would all be licensed.
And of course, I know you've been asked before, and you've thought about the opportunity for criminal involvement in this. What do you do about that?
Well, that is why we are having a 30-page bill. It is very detailed and very well documented to basically prevent any sort of organized criminal enterprises from coming in and taking away money from the citizens of the state of Maine.
Do you have any lawmakers supporting you?
Right now, we're still in discussions with different lawmakers, but because we have submitted as a citizens initiative, we are going to be going around and discussing this with leadership of both parties, and we'll also be discussing this with different individual legislators who have been interested in this subject in the past.
And you presume your goal is to get on the 2016 ballot?
Correct.
And I'd be interested to hear from the other folks at the table about why you're into this, why you think it's important to do.
I'm into this because I see MPP coming here to take Maine citizens' jobs away, and the only way I could figure out to preempt that was to come up with our own initiatives. Otherwise, we'd have to settle for big business coming in here and taking over the whole state, basically. So we're preempting what could have happened.
Can we get your name, sir?
Yep. Thomas Aubert.
Thomas Obear.
O-B-E-A-R, no apostrophe.
And big business would come, they would come in, your thought is they'd come in and control the growing?
Well, we looked at what happened in Colorado and Washington, and Marijuana Policy Project passed those laws. And the amount of money it takes just to apply for a license out there really would put most Mainers off the table for even applying for a license. And that's opening up the door to big business to come in here.
Does the bill set a standard for OUI enforcement?
The bill continues to say that being under the influence of any intoxicant will still be illegal. We do not set a specific level because there is not science to support what level of THC in the bloodstream is a level of intoxication.
Some of these other states that have gone with recreational marijuana have set a limit. That is credited with sometimes getting the bill through. So you're not willing to set a limit?
There's no science to support it. We will not pass bad policy. And just to give you an example, I'm a big guy. I may not use marijuana for 2 months, and then all of a sudden, I get pulled over. They want to take a blood test like they do in Colorado, and then they say, oh, well, you have this amount of THC in your bloodstream, so therefore you are under the influence, even though I didn't use for 2 months. Imagine the college kid who's back up here visiting his parents, and when marijuana is legal, and they have marijuana brownie on Friday night, and then Sunday morning, mama cooks them breakfast, packs up their clean clothes, and sends them on their way. And then that youth gets pulled over, and they to blood test the youth and determined that even though the youth had ingested it on Friday, they still had enough milligrams in their bloodstream to be under the level of intoxication. OUIs are very serious crimes that will stick with you for the rest of your life. And if setting an incorrect limit will ruin just one life, we need to prevent that. That college student would no longer be able to probably become the doctor, the law enforcement officer, or perhaps the politician that they wanted to be, just because of a bad law.
So what do you do about that? I mean, how do you have to set some level, right, other than just observable behavior?
I think that this is the reason that we need to legalize marijuana, because with marijuana currently being illegal, we cannot do the proper research to determine what is the level of intoxication.
Mm-hmm.
We already have drug recognition experts. We already have laws and statute in place to determine whether someone is under the influence of marijuana or not.
There are companies out there that are trying to create a device that can do roadside field sobriety tests. So probably in the next 3 to 5 years, there'll be technology out that
Maybe even
fixes that problem. Yep.
And I'm sorry, I skipped Joanna saying why you thought this was important to be part of.
Yes, as a Mainer, I recognize that Mainers have always exhibited self-reliance, and we are in charge of our own economy. We work hard as entrepreneurs in the state, and with sensible policies like this that are in keeping with state regulations, we can work as a community to make it benefit all in this state.
So your timetable, how soon do you expect to get your language approved? And the Secretary of State doesn't approve the whole language of the whole proposed law.
The revisor's office approves the language to make sure that it fits the legal requirements.
Yeah.
We've been working with a great attorney, Lynn Williams. She's an excellent attorney. She has done a lot of hard work on this, and I think she should be recognized for it. We expect to get this ballot back from the Secretary of State's office within 6 weeks, and we will be gathering signatures in April. And I'm sure we'll be seeing a lot more of one another on this great and wonderful journey.
Will you, now, there's at least one legalization bill submitted to the legislature now. Will you be supporting that?
We'll be going forward and speaking to the legislators on the Criminal Justice Committee, where I believe the bill is being assigned to, and we will be presenting them with our 30-page initiative. If they decide that they would wish to go forward with trying to preempt the people of the state of Maine at the ballot box, we will be there to lobby our position and lobby for the people of the state of Maine.
When do you expect to make that presentation?
I'm sorry?
When do you expect to make that presentation?
When there's the public hearing on the legalization bill.
The legislature could accept your petition once you turn it in and go ahead and enact it, right, without the vote.
We hope they do. But, again, it's just, from my personal feelings, I believe that many politicians, whether they support the legalization of marijuana or not, would like to see it decided by the Maine people at the ballot.
And you've talked with law enforcement people about this, I assume?
We have, yes.
What have you heard from them?
They would like to get rid of the gray area. They would like to make it clear when the marijuana is legal or not for people of a certain age. The biggest concern that I've heard from law enforcement is the fact that they will not be able to afford to do the enforcement or to teach all of their officers about what the new laws and regulations are. Law enforcement training is difficult, and law enforcement training is also very thorough. And that is the reason why the only earmark that we have from our tax revenue is to make sure that law enforcement is trained. So the deputy from Augusta County can come down to the Maine Criminal Justice Academy, get their 8-hour in-service, have their hotel room, and come back up, and that will not affect the budget of the Augusta County Sheriff's Department.
Thank you.
Thank you.